This episode of Minor Obsession is brought to you by the UNC Charlotte Belk College of Business, North Carolina's urban research business school. As alumni of the Belk College ourselves, we encourage you to visit belkcollege.uncc.edu and learn how Charlotte's Business School can inspire your career path. What's going on, Niner Nation? Welcome to another edition of Minor Obsession. You've got Sean Newton here with Scott Lieberman, and it's time for another exciting installment of Climbing the Hill with Mike Hill. We've got Mike in-house today on the phone. Mike, how are you doing? Great to have you back.
Hi, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
No worries. We've got a ton to talk about. It seems like, I talked to you in the Bahamas just a few short weeks ago, honestly, at this point, and so much has already happened for the Niners and for the Charlotte Athletics department. So a lot of topics to dive into. So let's give the fans what they want to hear and get your thoughts on a few key items here along with some sports. So diving right in, I think the first thing to talk about, top of mind for people, Coach Healy's contract extension. That's a pretty big deal to get us through the 2025 season and some very unique points to that contract that you don't necessarily see in other D1 football contracts. How'd you get to that, and what was that process like?
Well, we started talking with Will early in the season. I had a chance to visit with our chancellor, and I had just suggested to him that I thought that we should move quickly to extend Will, even though he'd been on our staff for, I think at that point, 9 months. It's pretty well documented now. I think at the time we were 2-5, but the feeling that I had and our executive team had as we discussed this pretty thoroughly was that we saw a lot to like about the direction of the program. And while we didn't know how that would translate into wins and losses, the rest of the season while we sat there at 2-5, that really wasn't completely relevant to us. We wanted Will to know the commitment that we had to him, really when we were sitting there with a record that wasn't really reflective of where we knew we would end up one day. I don't think any of us knew we were going to rattle off 5 wins in a row and go to the bowl game, but I think what that did is it really validated the decision, and Will was incredibly gracious and humble when I went to see him about this, and I think we maybe had just lost a Western, and we were visiting just about where things were headed for the season, and he was really blown away and couldn't have been more grateful and appreciative, which is the kind of guy Will is. In fact, I explicitly remember him looking at me saying, "I haven't done anything to deserve this," and I laughed. I said, "Will, you've done more than enough to deserve this, and this is just a demonstration of our commitment to you." So we began those conversations at that point. Obviously, as the season progressed and the tone of the season changed, we really went to work on some other elements that were important to Will. And Will was more about what can we do to keep his staff intact and to reward his staff than he was to receive more money himself. I swear I had to beg him to take a raise, which is, not typical in this business. But he was adamant that whatever measures we took to try to enhance his compensation package would be available to his coaches and not necessarily to him. So I think what you see is a combination of those elements to take care of his staff and to take care of Will in a creative way. It moves him up a little bit in the pecking order as it relates to his compensation in our conference, and takes care of his staff in a meaningful way. So we're excited about it. I think that all Niner fans could agree that what Will's done and what his staff has done is made our program relevant on our campus and in our city. And honestly, even nationally, you could make the case that we're now on the map, whereas before, I'm not sure that Game Day was paying attention to us. I think we got mentioned maybe 3 times this year during ESPN Game Day. So that's progress.
Absolutely, and we're pumped to hopefully keep Will for a while. But one of the other unique things in that contract that I wanted to get your take on was if he were to leave, the standard buyouts and all that stuff, but also a home and away scheduling with the school he would move to.
Yeah, so that's a clause we put in the deal, and actually that was something we put in his original contract a year ago as we were negotiating the terms, and that continues through this amendment. So the idea behind it is pretty simple: is that it's more and more challenging for programs who are not in the autonomous 5 conferences to get home and home series with programs that maybe are better resourced. And so this is an opportunity for us to try to secure a series. Now that said, we do have some great home and home series coming up here with Duke, which starts next year, with Maryland and with North Carolina and with East Carolina, and then we renew our series with App State. But certainly those ACC and Big Ten schools that we have coming here were already in place. But any opportunity we have to try to secure another home and home with a big program, we want to try to do. And so that was the thinking behind it. I know that Will's representative, when we negotiated the original deal, thought it was an interesting and creative solution, and so we wanted to build that into the contract.
Now, I know you also got a contract extension, so congratulations on that. We don't have to talk about it too much, but I was just curious, is there something like that in your deal as well? If you were to leave us, we get to go play the Gators every other year or something like that?
Well, it's interesting. You're the only one who's asked that question, so I'm gonna share this with you. I'm very, very grateful to the Chancellor and to the Board of Trustees for extending my contract. I love it here. This has been an incredibly rewarding first. It'll be 2 years here in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, which is hard to believe. So much has happened. So exceptionally appreciative for the extension. There actually is an opportunity in my agreement that if I were to leave, and fans, I'm not looking to leave, so don't worry that I've got my head on a swivel, because I don't. I love it here. But there is a clause in the agreement that if I were to go elsewhere, that my buyout would be reduced if we schedule a home and home series in basketball. That's a clause that's built in there as well, in a creative way, again, to try to help this program, if something like that were to occur.
Well, we definitely love having you here, and Will, for that matter. So glad we could get those on the books, and hope to have both of you around for a long time. While we're on the topic of football, another point in people's minds that you hear a few things about late in fall, wonder where they're at now, facilities master plan. I know we have locker room improvements scheduled for this year. How are we looking in terms of the overall facilities master plan?
Yeah, so the master facilities plan, I know there's a lot of interest in that, and our fans, I appreciate their patience, because we had hoped we would release it maybe sometime by the end of the calendar year in 19. Really, for us right now, the only reason it's not been rolled out publicly at this point is there's some key stakeholders who we want to get in front of, to have a chance to share it with them as we try to build some positive momentum and fundraising for some of the projects that are at hand. And so once those occur, then we'll have an opportunity to roll this out. I do feel very confident it's going to be shared with our fan base this year. I can't pinpoint the date. I would ask again for patience. I think I try to be extremely transparent with what we're working on here. The negative to that is when I'm transparent, people get excited about some of the things we're working on, and they want to know when it's done. It's sort of, like we're on long road trips in a car. Are we there yet? And so I just ask for continued patience and trust and faith in us that, we will reveal it when we're ready. And there's some reasons why we haven't done so yet. Not anything negative at all, just trying to be strategic about what we're working on here. But I want to continue to be able to share with our fans, in real time what we're working on. And I think that's important to communicate that, so that they do know that, we're grinding away to try to build something special. But the flip side of it is I would just ask fans to be patient and to trust. And even though, they're tapping their feet, I think right now, waiting to see this thing, that they let us reveal it when we're ready.
And Mike, one other question kind of on the same topic. I was curious about alcohol sales. I know we were piloting that. I was wondering, did that make a big effect? Did we get more attendance? Do we plan to continue selling alcohol at sporting events?
Yeah, so I think so far so good. It's been a good experience. We've gotten some feedback from our fans. We submitted a survey to our football season ticket holders and got feedback from our fans on that. And I would say the vast majority of fans who commented on it were positive about it. We did not have a spike, a negative spike in terms of alcohol-related behaviors at the games, which is really what we predicted based on other institutions having instituted sales at their football and basketball arenas and baseball, et cetera. So we'll assess it again once we get through this spring with baseball. And my hope is that we'll be able to go to the board and move forward with this as a program that's no longer considered a pilot program, but one that's been successful and that has really added an amenity to the fan base here. This is not a huge profit generator at this point for the program. I hope that at some point it can be. But that was really not the primary goal in introducing sales at the games. The goal was to try to provide an amenity for fans to give them another reason to come to the game instead of staying at home and watching on TV. And this is not unique to Charlotte. This is what a lot of schools across the country are doing as they try to combat, the 60-inch television at home and to try to get people to come to the stadium. So we're excited about it and continue to forward to advancing it for the future.
Got to bug you about one other hot button item with folks wondering where things are at too, and get your thoughts on brand study. What's the latest there? Is there a timeline when fans can expect to hear something more on that?
Yeah, so I think the brand study is again something that I feel very confident we're going to be releasing the results of that this year. And, one of the challenges that we had is that last year we initiated the process in early April, literally just a few weeks before the tragedy on campus. And so, as you might imagine, when April 30th occurred, a lot of priorities shifted, right? And so, that was a small delay in that process. That said, we're really excited about the research that's gone into this. This is not something that you take cavalierly at all. The brand is important and special in different ways to different constituents for this university, and so we want to make sure that that we get things right and that we're communicating properly. So I expect that we'll have much more to share related to that brand assessment and that study here in the coming months, and looking forward to that.
So shifting from kind of the administrative stuff, let's get into sports. Sports right now are looking pretty good, especially men's and women's basketball. Let's start with men's basketball. They were in the bottom pod last year in Conference USA. Now we're in the top pod, fighting in the top 5 right now. What have you noticed? It's been a great hire with Coach Sanchez for sure.
He and his staff have done an incredible job. If you think about the fact that we've won as many games this season already that we did in the prior 2 seasons combined, and the fact that this program hasn't even been to the conference tournament the past 2 years, the first time in 3 years we're in the conference tournament, and not only are we in it, we're competing for a first-round bye. And so while I know there some fans were disappointed that we lost on the road last weekend, the reality is this: we are in a position to have a first-round bye. And regardless of what happens down the stretch, the fact that we've gone from the bottom of the league, and we were picked to finish near the bottom of the league this year. I think we were picked 12th or 13th. And here we are fighting for one of the top 4 spots in the conference. I mean, you just have to tip your hat to Ron and to the staff and to the players for how hard they've worked to, have tied a Halton Arena record 12 wins this year, and still with 2 games left. And obviously these last 4 games, the positive is if you're in the top pot, it means you're one of the top 5 teams in the league. The negative is it means you got to play the other 4 top teams, and that's not going to be an easy task. But I'd rather be seen and considered in that group, and let's go play. I mean, every team that we have on our schedule, I think we feel we can compete with. You have FIU returning here, and FIU, that was probably our best performance of the year, maybe best performance in many years when we beat them here. That's a very fast-paced, up-tempo team. You've got North Texas, who's a regular season leader at this point, 12-2. But we went down to Denton and really played them a very close game. I mean, that was neck and neck in a game that was in doubt for quite a while. Competed well there, and then we have to go on the road and play, two teams, Western Kentucky and La Tech, who we competed very well against. I think Western ended up pulling away and beating us by 17 points. That was not a 17-point game up there the last time we played them. In fact, we had them down pretty big in the first half. A couple of calls did not go our way, which happens on the road, and suddenly it was a tie game, I think, or 1-point game at the half. But the reality is that, we're competing with the best teams in our league now in year two. I feel like we are way ahead of schedule. I can't tell you that before the season started that I had any idea that we would be competing in the top pod at the end of the season. So I'm really proud of the job that our program has done, and proud of our fans, because they've created an atmosphere at Halton that has clearly impacted our team's ability to have success. I think Ron and our players would be the first to talk about the atmosphere here. It's a hard place to play, and it's only going to get more difficult as the place gets more full.
For sure. And kind of following up on the question we had about you and Coach Healy, in Ron's contract, is there a home and away guaranteed there too? Because, these are good problems to think about, that our coaches and our athletic director are doing so good that, they could get poached.
Well, you're right. We've joked about this. The truth of the matter is you want your coaches to be coveted, right? Because if they're not, then you're probably not having any success. And so while it can create, some pressure when your coaches are sort of in the limelight and people, want to talk to them for other jobs, it means you're having success. And so that's the position that we want to be in. We do not have a clause currently in Ron's contract related to a home and home in basketball, though I could tell you without negotiating Ron's, future deals in this interview, that's something that I would love to take a look at, and we'll see if he might be open to that if we get to that point. But we want to make sure we'll take good care of Ron Sanchez as well. We actually extended Ron's contract last year, and I don't know that got much publicity, if any publicity, but similar situation with Ron. He came to visit with me before a road trip. I think we were headed maybe to Middle Tennessee, and at the time we were 5-18, I believe, and offered him a contract extension, a 2-year contract extension. And he was, as humble and gracious as Ron always is, as you can imagine. But again, the point was we could see where we're headed, and we felt it was important for him to know that we had his back, that we see the future, and not to be wrapped up in the wins and losses of year one. First years are tough when you inherit a program that's maybe not, where it should be. And so we feel really good about that.
Well, the top analysts at Minor Obsession predicted 15 wins for this season, so we're right there with you. We felt the love for Sanchez and the coaching staff, and really felt like this was going to be a good turnaround year for us.
I've still been predicting NCAA tournament. I'm still crossing my fingers for it. I think we're gonna crush the conference tournament, whether we get a bye or not. I think we're gonna surprise some people.
Well, I'll say this again. Obviously, sports. One of the many reasons we love sports is because just when you think you have the results figured out, you don't. But I really believe that we're a team that could thrive in the postseason, because what happens in tournaments is the pace slows down. It just does. I think we may be built for a postseason, maybe better than some other teams are. But, we'll have to go compete and see. The team's got to play well. It's a league that's got a lot of balance, a lot of parity, and, we got to travel along with our first postseason appearance in 3 years. There'll be some newness to it, and we've got some young guys who will have to adjust. So it will by no means be easy, but I do like the fact that I think that we are built potentially to have success in postseason. And I'm with you. Hey, I'm holding NCAA tournament dates on my calendar, and I will every year.
So, knowing that you're a big basketball guy, is there anyone that you really enjoy watching on the team? I know Sean's a big Cooper Robb guy. I like Malik Martin, and Jameer Young, I called him early on. Anyone you got your eyes on?
Yeah, how can you not love the job that Jameer has done? He's 7-time freshman of the week in our conference. Every time I see him, I say, we're just going to give it to you every week, man, as you're just freshman of the week every week. Because he's sneaky strong for his size, and just, has obviously made a huge impact on this team. So, but I love all of our guys. I think it's a very fun team to watch. I mean, it's an interesting team. I know that coming into the season, we maybe, didn't have maybe the number of big men that you'd like to have down low in the post. But the reality is, we play four guards a lot, and that's okay. I mean, it's worked well. It's fun to watch us defend. It really is. And defense, especially you think back to the FIU game when it sparks offense. I mean, that's exciting basketball to watch. So, yeah, I really enjoy watching our guys. I think they play super hard. I think they're really bonded together as a team. I think they care about each other, about the right things, and that goes back to the culture that Ron and his staff are working so hard to build. Those are important qualities to have if you're going to be a championship level program, and we are well on our way to becoming that. But it takes a little time. No one wants to hear that because people here are starving for success. It's been a basketball drought for us here, and all I can say is, look, you can't fast forward to the end result. You have to get your way to it, and it means sometimes that you have to suffer through some losses that are agonizing or make you shake your head. But trust me, no one feels that way more than the coaches and the players do. But that's a part of the growth process, and as we grow as a program and grow as a team, those heartbreaks will become fewer and fewer, and we'll see more and more success. And I love to watch our team play.
So moving on to another hot team, women's basketball, doing just as good, if not better, really right now. 18-7, just knocked off the top two teams in Conference USA at home. What are your thoughts on that team and how they've been performing this year?
I've felt this since December that this team could absolutely win the league, and I believe they are capable of winning the tournament and advancing to the NCAA tournament. Kara has done a great job with her staff and putting together a roster that's talented, a lot of different positions. You got a player of Jade Phillips' caliber who can really score, but a lot of really nice players, and you've seen it the last two games, beating the two teams who were in first place, Rice and Old Dominion. And Old Dominion, we had them beaten up there in Norfolk early in the season, and they came back up with an 11-0 run to beat us at the end of the game. Otherwise, we'd have two wins over Old Dominion, who is, I think top 30 in the RPI. And so this team has great wins this year. They have two wins over ACC teams, one over Tulane and down in Puerto Rico. I just think that Kara has done a great job of building a team that is starting to show the grit required, I think, too, on the defensive end to win a championship. And sitting here now at 9-5 in the league and all the momentum in the world, I think we've won seven of our last 8, or maybe 8 of our last 9, and it was fun watching last night. Think about this. Last night against Old Dominion, we're down 14-1 to start the game. 14-1 of the top team in the league, who is 22-3. All right, and we come back and win the game, and that's impressive. That shows a lot about the character of the team, and I think it speaks volumes about the job that Kara does.
And speaking of Coach Consuegra, she's a coach who has been around before the Mike Hill era and has stuck around and has continued to perform with regular NIT appearances. Those are kind of expected at this point. Does that change your expectations when looking at this team and the foundation she's already had time to build and improve upon?
Yeah, well, I think, I'm a big fan of Kara's. I think she does a tremendous job. She represents our program with class. She's totally bought into what we're trying to build as an overall athletic program here. So I admire the job that she's done. I love working with her. She's just a good person. She's got a great relationship with Ron Sanchez and with our other coaches, and, she's all about the right things. So, this is, again, part of the building and the growth process. You're right. Our women's basketball program has gone to several NITs during her tenure. But if you look at the history of our women's basketball program, there are just a few NCAA tournament appearances ever. I don't know exactly how many, but I want to say you could probably count it on one hand. And so the fact that we're in a position right now as a team that is certainly capable, like realistically capable, not a false hope, but really could win the conference tournament to go to the NCAA tournament is exciting to see. And so, love the job she's doing and just want to support her any way that we can, because she's all about the right things.
Similar question to the men's too. Scott's a big Jade Phillips fan. I'm a big Octavia fan. You got any players you love on the women's team that you keep following?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, you say, Jade, obviously, she's the obvious one, right, as the scorer, but I mean, I love the job that our point guard does, Jada. And you think about the job that she did last year coming in as a freshman. You know, when you lose Laya, and Laya was out for several games dealing with some family matters, some personal matters, and had to be back overseas. And so we're going down to the home stretch of our conference schedule last year with a freshman point guard. And what do? We won like 6 of our last 7 and really started playing well. And I remember at the time telling Kara, I said, you know what, it's no fun going through this sort of nerves right now of having a freshman at the helm, but this is going to pay huge dividends next year. And you can see it. Watching the game last night, you can see just the command that she has in running the team, running the show. And so I love watching her play. I'm excited about our freshman, Angel, who's come in. And, I mean, I tell you what, like Kara says, just throw the ball up high. She's going to catch it. She's going to catch it and give her a chance to put it in the bucket. So, again, a really nice job of building this roster. And I think that big things are in store if we continue to play the way we're playing.
So transitioning, I know we only have you for a limited amount of time, but just wanted to touch on some of the spring sports that have gotten started or getting started. We've got tennis, baseball, softball, golf, track and field. Go.
Yeah, exactly. Like where do you start, right? So you got track and field competing for a conference championship in Birmingham, and both tennises at full throttle now. Both of them have had some really nice wins. The women's team, I think 7-3 right now. And their 3 losses are to ACC teams, 2 of whom are ranked in the top 5 in the country. And then the men's team had a really nice win a few weeks ago against Clemson under our new coach Kyle Bailey. So excited about the direction of our men's team as well. And then the bat and ball sports, of course, are full throttle now as well. And I know Woody would prefer to have gotten off to a better start than the opening night loss to VCU, but he turned around and win the next game. And like I told him, I said, doesn't matter how many runs you give up the first night, they only count for that game. And it's a new day and a new pitcher the next day, and we bounced back and won that game. So that was exciting to see. And I know they've got a big series this weekend that we're looking forward to see if we can get some wins against UMBC. Softball, man, 6-6 right now, and a bunch of games again this weekend. We had a chance to host USC Upstate earlier in the week. And for those who aren't familiar with softball, Upstate is actually there. That's a very, very good softball program. They've had a lot of success. They win conference championships on a regular basis. They go to the in-state tournament on a regular basis. So we hosted them, and we were in a really tight ball game, a tie game in the bottom of the 6th inning, and executed a perfect squeeze play to bring home the winning run and even our record at 6-6. This is a team that was 15-35 last year. Okay, and we only have 14 players on the roster right now. So again, Ashley and her staff, they'll continue to recruit and build a roster, but it feels it has a different feel out there when you go to a softball game. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and I can't wait to see us continue to play, because it's just it's a different level of fun when you start getting it going in softball, and I'm already enjoying seeing the results of all their hard work.
No, I think the only one you missed there, golf.
Well, and ironically, don't mention golf yet, because they've not really. Yeah. They're just now starting up here this weekend with tournaments. But the fall season was great. Our women's team, Healy. Come on, I mean, she's as good as anybody. I'll put her up against anybody in the country. She's that good, and in year 3 of a program to have us there on the cusp, right around the top 25. And, we'll see obviously how we compete here in the spring, but I think that team's got a great chance to get into the postseason if they compete with their capabilities. And, Ryan's team as well, the men's team had a nice fall, and particularly one of the early season tournaments played very, very well. And, so I think that both of our golf programs have a chance to do something special this season, and the spring could be a lot of fun if these teams compete with their capability.
Well, Mike, I know we took up a lot of your time. Just want to let you know that we did do our top 5 49er moments of the decade, and the fans agreed with me, and number 1 was the hiring of you. So we all love you here at Niner Nation. And Minor Obsession.
I appreciate that very much. That's that's humbling. I don't want to cast aspersions, but I really have to question the voting on that. If I'm getting the number of top vote, that's kind of crazy. But you know what it is, guys? I mean, seriously, we've said this from day one. We're not going to get to where we want to go unless we're all in this thing together, going in the same direction. And it's not just the AD, it's not just the football coach, it's everybody who's a part of our program. And we've got some really special people on our staff, on this campus, and this university, in our community, in our city, who are pulling together to try to help us get to where we want to go. You know, what you guys are doing, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I mean, I'm dead serious. The fact that you invest your time to promote our program and to talk to our coaches and to talk to our staff and to really, be, sort of evangelists for what we're trying to build here, that all makes a difference. It all makes a difference. So we'll just say the top vote getter in your poll should be all of Niner Nation, because they're the ones who are making this happen.
That's very fair. There's a lot to look at when you look over a decade and how many great things occur. And I think 2020 is going to be even better. We love having you around and all the other coaches we talked about.
Well, I appreciate that. We're looking forward to continuing a great year, and I appreciate all you guys do, and look forward to seeing all of our great fans out at games here this spring.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thanks again. We look forward to catching up with you again once the brand and the everything else comes out, and getting your take on that and getting into football here soon too.
No, that sounds exciting, man. I can't wait. Was out at practice the other day, earlier this week, first day of practice, and it was exciting to see. I wonder how those guys did this morning with the wind blowing across the field. It was pretty chilly this morning, but it's exciting to see, and I can't wait for it to get started again here this fall.
Appreciate you stopping by, and as always, wear green and go Niners.
Go Niners.